I saw a couple of games with that 3-3 in Pittsburgh State.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's village board meeting for the, of course, the village president and board of trustees. Today is September 28th. Thank you all for joining us both here in person and those of you that might be joining us via television. Our first order of business, of course, is the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight, very special occasion. A couple of firsts here. Tonight we have two young children that will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. They are John and Lilia Pizzuto. They are 12-year-old twins. They belong to a homeschool curriculum that includes Riverside Academy in Oak Brook, which teaches communications, arts, and music. They also have tutors for math, English, creative writing, Latin, science, and other subjects. Their primary coordinating teacher is their mother, Laura, and their father, Joseph, is considered their principal. They are active in baseball, swimming, and gymnastics. John is involved in Boy Scouts, and Lilia is in American Heritage, is an American Heritage girl. John will be interviewing myself for the Scouts tomorrow. They are active in their church, which is St. Isaac Jogues, which I also happen to be attending, in Hinsdale, where John is also an altar server. Their parents, Joseph and Laura Pizzuto, are also with us tonight. I'd like to ask them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again. Now, Karen, may I have roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Grasso.
Here.
Trustee Cabeza.
Here.
Trustee Bolis. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. First portion for the meeting is the residents' comments. Are there any residents that would like to address the board at this time? Okay.
My name is John Bittner. I'm a resident of Burr Ridge. Been a resident for 41 years. And I would like to yield my time to Dolores Cizek to have some comments. Dolores, could you speak for me, please?
I'm sorry, John.
It's legal. It's legal. Robert's Rules of Order. It's legal to do this. It's my time. I am a member of this village. I've lived here for 41 years. I paid my taxes.
It's
I'm
not,
asking
sir.
her to speak for me.
Sir, it's
John,
not.
I'm sorry.
We follow Robert's rules to the extent that it's not called for under the rules under the village. The presentation of the agenda and the schedule for the agenda is set by ordinance.
Why would you stop
by
this woman
Robert's
from
rules.
speaking here? Why would you stop this, Steve?
I have
Why?
nothing- I'm
I'm asking you a question.
I'm not the one doing that. I'm just telling you what the village board approved and
Why
what
does the
current-
board want to do this? I'm asking the board.
No one's
John-
stopping her from speaking. She speaks
Hello,
at the
John.
end of the meeting.
Excuse me, Al.
Let her
Trustee
speak when
Cabeza.
she's always spoken.
John,
Albert, come on.
John,
Is this communism? She has a right to speak. She was on the board here. She's concerned about this village. Why would you not care about what she has to say? Albert, explain that to me.
Trustee
If
Cabeza.
you want an
please.
answer from me, I'll tell you.
You don't have,
an answer from
you
me.
don't have to speak. You don't have to speak. John, if you and I would like to talk about this offline, I'd be happy to, but this is not the time or place for it. And if you'd like to, I'd be more than happy to talk to you in or out of the office.
Mickey,
This was discussed. This was
Mickey, I
discussed
like
and voted
you.
on.
You're a nice guy, but I don't understand why this happened. This changing of everything only happened for one person. And that was aimed directly at one person. That's wrong. That's wrong. People have the right to speak. You may not like me, you may say anything about me you want to, and I don't care, but I'll give you the right to say it. I don't have to appreciate it, but I can hear it, and I'll listen to it. But this is wrong. Watching this, what's going on the last TV, the last two times I watched this, because I wasn't able to be here, It was a shamble. It was very, very sad. Dolores cares about this village. She may not live here anymore, but she cares. And it's not bad to hear what she has to say.
Excuse me, John, your 5 minutes is just about up now.
No, it's not.
It's
only about
close.
3 minutes.
Okay. But this is not a village, this is a village board meeting. It's not a town hall meeting for non-residents also to speak. However, she is allowed to speak at the end of the meeting. That was voted on, and one of the purposes of the meeting was to start these meetings out on a more positive note and more efficiently. Obviously, that's not working tonight, but that is the goal, and she is more than welcome to speak at the end of the meeting.
You know, Mickey, I appreciate what you're saying, and I respect you for who you are, and I respect the village. But you guys built a village center with no anchor store. You got 30% of the village that has never been leased or sold in a retail area. There's a lot of things that have not been done extremely well. There's no forecasting, there's no direction, there's no focus. There's nobody doing anything except going around in circles. Very sad. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure. Are there any other residents that would like to respect the rules and speak? Please.
First of all, I'm going to say I totally agree with John. So,
Your name, please.
Have your name-
Fourscore and 7 years
Could you
ago.
name, please, name and address?
Mark Thomas, 7515 Drew Avenue in Burr Ridge.
Thank you.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Mayor Straub, you put on the facade of being a great patriot. You visited 50 capitals in 50 days and read these exact words, the Gettysburg Address, and then you enact an ordinance that segregates non-residents from speaking during the normal audience portion of our village meetings. If Abraham Lincoln were alive today, he would be appalled. The claim that this will make the meetings more efficient is ludicrous. You used our village resources, our tax dollars, to enact an ordinance against one person for speaking 5 minutes at the board meetings. Mayor Straub, you clearly are not a patriot. You are not for the people. This administration has performed a huge injustice to our community at our expense. I demand that you retract the ordinance amending Section 2.67 of Article 11 of Chapter 2 of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code, where it segregates non-residents from residents.
For the audience's edification, our policies with regards to speaking is some of the most lenient throughout DuPage County. Right next door, it is absolutely next door. It is absolutely true. And we're trying to bring a sense of decorum and professionalism, obviously. Doesn't always work. But there are villages even close by. Their speaking time is only 3 minutes, not 5. A lot of times they don't allow 2 of them, in the beginning and the end. However, we do encourage that. We do welcome people's feedback. And this is not just my decision. This is the board decision. So that was what was voted on last week, and 2 weeks ago. That is the policy. If anybody would like to make an appointment with me to speak about it at the village, I keep office hours most Thursday afternoons, or at another time convenient to you. I understand. One of the most difficult things I've had to adjust to with being mayor is not the inability to please everybody. In private industry, it just seems a lot easier, especially these meetings. Sometimes that microphone is a license just to come up and just cast disparaging comments on people's integrity and even their patriotism. And it's a role that I'm not very comfortable with. I really don't like very much, but it's a role I accepted to serve the benefits of the village. The village, not residents, not 1 or 2 residents, and not non-residents. It's what's best interest for the village. For every one person that speaks the way that I believe that Mark and John have, I can find 10 or 20 that think the opposite. We're unable to please everybody. We apologize for that. But this is a policy. Please respect what's been decided. And if you would like to discuss it another time, by all means, let me know. Thank you very much. If there's anybody else that would like to address the residents at this time, I'm sorry, address the board. Thank you. We'll go through the consent agenda next. This is the omnibus vote, which I always have difficulty pronouncing. Omnibus vote. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. We'll cover this first. Under minutes, approval of regular board meeting of September 14th, 2015. Receive and file draft Economic Development Committee meeting of September 15th, 2015. Under minutes 5C, receive and file draft Plan Commission meeting of September 21st, 2015. Under ordinances, we have 6B, approval of ordinance amending section 58.15 of chapter 58, the waterworks system of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code, watering restrictions. Under resolutions, 7B, adoption of resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Burr Ridge and Cook County for the provision of environmental health inspection services. 7C, adoption of resolution celebrating the 25th anniversary of the passage of Americans with Disabilities Act. 7D, adoption of resolution of appreciation, Illinois Senator Christine Radonio. 7E, adoption of resolution of appreciation, Illinois Representative James Durkin. 7F, adoption of resolution of appreciation, Illinois Representative Patricia Bellock. 7G, adoption of resolution of appreciation, former Mayor Gary Grasso and current board member. County board member. Under considerations, 8, we have 8D, approval of Plan Commission recommendation to approve fence variation to permit replacement of a wood fence with aluminum fence in an interior side yard, south side of home, rather than restricted to the rear yard, west side of home. That's V01-2015, located at 512 Kirkwood Cove. Last name is Bennett. 8E, approval of request from Carriageway Club for subdivision fence.
Remove.
Under considerations, 8F. Let's make that note. Approval recommendation to award contract for annual concrete work program. Under considerations, 8G, approval of vendor list in the amount of $57,044.48 for all funds, plus $211,459.05 for payroll, for a grand total of $268,503.53, which includes no special expenditures. May I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? We have minutes 5A, 5B, 5C, ordinances 6B, resolutions 7B, 7C, 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G. Under considerations, that would be 8D, 8F, and 8G. May I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0. One item was taken out of the consent agenda. That will be discussed later. Now, I would officially like to open up the public hearing for Saya Trucking Company improvements, and Mr. Doug Pollack will be addressing that.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. President and Village Board. This is a public hearing for an amendment to the annexation agreement for the Saya Truck Terminal. The property is located at 15W460 North Frontage Road. It was annexed to the village in 2010 under an annexation agreement between the property owner and the village. At this time, the property owner and the tenant on the property, Saya Trucking Company, is requesting an amendment to that agreement to allow the construction of a parking lot on the east side of the property. Historically, at least for the last several years, and even before the annexation of the property. They used the dirt and gravel area as a parking lot, but it was not formally approved in DuPage County or in the village of Burr Ridge. So in order to proceed with construction of asphalt and curbing and the other features of a parking lot, they need to amend the annexation agreement between the village and SAIA. The annexation includes the approval of the construction of the parking lot, includes requirements that all parking lot lights be below the existing wall, that all lights on the building shall be shielded from direct visibility to or by any adjoining residential properties, and it also requires additional landscaping on the east side of the wall and along the frontage of the property. Legal notice was published as required for this hearing. We also sent letters to property owners within 750 feet, as well as to the Chestnut Hills Homeowners Association. Representatives from the trucking company are here tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Board members, any questions of Doug? Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. The existing lights on the building that face Chestnut Hills or can be seen from Chestnut Hills, those will be shielded?
Correct.
Okay, and the parking lot, the parking area that's being proposed, that's for automobiles, cars and trucks of workers, not delivery trucks?
Correct. It's not for storage of their vehicle.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Vehicles.
Any other board members have questions of Doug? Okay, open up to the public. Anyone like to address the board regarding this topic? Okay. Oh, we have one person.
I actually had a couple of questions. My name is Ivan Harrison, and I live on Hamilton Avenue, Ridge. And my house is directly on the other side of the Stevenson, behind the trucking company. And what I want to know with the paving and the fence that's been talked about, if it's going to contribute more to the noise, because we do, even on the other side of the expressway, hear a lot of the noise day and night. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I guess the
Right, I would say no. Again, this is an employee parking lot. The fact that it's going to be paved and not gravel, I think would make an improvement.
so it's not,
In terms of noise, I would not say that.
what you're saying, it's the parking for cars, not for the trucks.
That's correct. It's
that are
employee
shifting.
parking.
Yeah, we do hear a lot of noise, and sometimes we hear, or not hear, but feel the ground shaking on our side of the Stevenson. Wow. I've heard people say that there were potholes on the Stevenson that might be causing that, but this isn't just a short-term thing. This is something we've heard for years throughout the night. Also, I don't know if that's going to impact the drainage. And the water on that side of the Stevenson ends up on our side of the Stevenson, and some of the yards along the frontage road on this side of the Stevenson also are getting more water. And we wanted to be sure that if it did affect the drainage, that it was going to be regulated.
Shouldn't have any major impact. The water that comes across the expressway is always going to come that way. It's going downstream, and this should not be a major contributor.
What I want to know is, have they looked at that and made sure that it isn't going to increase the
They are in compliance with
flow?
all stormwater requirements.
Actually, excuse me, Steve, may I ask Doug to get up to answer that question? Provide any additional information regarding the consideration, the impact on stormwater is always obviously a major concern.
Better yet, I'd put the engineer on the spot. Mark Richards is here. He's the the engineer for SAIA.
Okay. And
Mark
your
Richards.
name, please?
Yeah, Mark Richards, Webster McGrath and Allberg, civil engineer on the project. And as Steve Stricker pointed out, we are complying with all the stormwater requirements. We're actually providing Along the east side here, a BMP basin that'll provide storage of water and also filtering of the water for water quality purposes. So it's really an improvement overall, going from gravel to pavement, and then stormwater should be an improvement as well.
So there'll be less runoff, or it'll be less volume that's more controlled.
Yes. Yeah, the BMP basin will encourage infiltration of the ground, so they'll have naturalized plantings and infiltrations.
I think those are my two concerns, the noise. And another thing I might ask is, are there any plans to have a fence on the Stevenson side?
I'm sorry, what?
The question was.
If there were any
the question was
plans-
A possibility of a fence on the Stevenson side.
No,
All we have is a chain link fence now.
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Right now, we do hear
Yeah,
a lot of noise throughout the night. Also, once the foliage comes down, right now, there's a lot of trees and things in our backyards, but once fall comes and the leaves are down, then we'll also get a lot of light that comes from the Stevenson.
And
the noise barrier that you see was put up by the Illinois Department of Transportation, and they have no plans to put any noise barriers up on any side of the
I thought they
expressway.
did on one side because of housing that's on the other side. I know on the
I'm talking about
Stevenson
in this-
side,
In this location, there are no,
is that something that they can look into?
No.
To actually measure the noise?
I can guarantee you that there will be no, the Illinois Department of Transportation does not have the funding to put up noise barriers in this location.
Well, I don't
Normally
mean-
they normally do it if they expand the road.
Yeah, I don't mean on the Stevenson itself. I mean on the trucking company's property. That's going to keep some of the noise from the trucks out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that would necessarily help.
That's what we hear
I understand
throughout the night.
but
Yeah.
you'll continue to hear that noise. The noise will expand over the wall, and you will continue to hear that if you're hearing it from the distance that you're talking about, a wall would not help the situation.
I measured from the center of the lot to my house, and it's about 1,500 feet.
Right, so,
It's not very far.
well, it is pretty far.
Steve,
I mean, it is a ways.
No,
I mean, it's across, obviously, 6 lanes of traffic.
Well, the traffic's quite noisy, too. I've been here 23
Well,
years. and
exactly.
it's
But what
much
I was going to
louder.
do is call up a representative from SIA. If you have specific, just to point out, and maybe after the meeting, you can meet with him, if there are specific times, if there's specific types of noise,
Yes.
this person is the one that you should talk to, because they can look into that for you. If they're dropping, sometimes they drop those loads, and it creates a big bang.
The containers?
That's maybe the vibration you're hearing.
Well, not just hearing, feeling. And it's not just,
And so they're not really supposed to be doing that,
Yeah.
and when that type of thing happens, he's the person that you need to talk to so that they can look into it. Obviously, if you have a time and date, they can look into it a lot better than if you tell us it happened 2 weeks ago, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the meeting, if you would meet that gentleman, raise your hand, please, once again, and he'll take your information and.
I'll talk to him, but we not only hear it throughout the night, but we feel it sometimes.
Well, I understand.
Where it literally shakes the house.
Understand.
And I've heard that same comment from other neighbors.
One other comment I'd like to mention is that I actually live on 81st Street, which is much further south of you,
Yes.
and I'm just amazed at the highway noise that we hear, just because where we're located. And I would bet that the highway was 100 feet from my house, just because the way the noise carries. If it's that noise that noisy over by my house, I can't imagine what it's like by your house. And it's got to be a lot worse. I will say though, the idea of a fence might be up for discussion, but they also have a row of tractor trailers all across that fence. It's
Yeah.
already producing somewhat of a noise barrier, but it's still not good enough, because they are noisy. Now what we can do, we need to do, if there is some violation here of timing, or noise level, maybe there's something we can do to help rectify that, or certainly have, find out when that occurs, what day it occurs, and maybe report it to us, and we'll go back to them.
It occurs throughout the night, 2, 3 in the morning, whatever, that you can literally hear it and feel it shake the house.
That's
So,
when they're the busiest.
yeah. The night.
Okay,
So it's a concern. So I'll
Thank you,
talk
Mike.
to him.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Mark Thomas, 7515 Drew Avenue. Actually, I just want to reiterate what Ivan was just saying, just go on record with it. The noise that we're hearing, I've been around trucks a lot as a youngster. I can definitely say that what it is somebody's pulling the pin and dropping the trailer without cranking down the dolly legs. It's a noise that's very familiar, creates quite the noise and the ground shaking that we feel. Yes, we live near I-55, there's plenty of noise, but it's just pretty much a steady drone of noise. This is just a sudden shock.
Anyone else like to address the subject at hand regarding the paving of the parking lot for the employee parking for Saia Trucking? Okay. This time I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing and as well as to reopen the regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Moving on to the actual consideration under ordinances. Consideration of approval of ordinance amending annexation agreement with Saia Trucking Company.
Right, this is an amendment to the existing Saia annexation agreement. I think we've gone over the issues. I would say personally that I appreciate the effort that Saia has made in attempting to address the concerns that we raised. There was a resident from Chestnut Hills Homeowner Association that participated in all the meetings. They spent a great deal of time addressing their concerns, especially as it relates to lighting and as well as landscaping. And there were some concerns from Babson Park regarding the east side of their property. We were able to get them to install some additional landscaping as a result of that. So although the noise continues to be an issue, what they're proposing here should not have any impact on the noise. And in fact, with the landscaping and especially the lighting changes, I think this overall is a positive for the village and for the residents.
I would just like to ask Saia then if they could please make a renewed effort to inform their drivers to please follow the protocol that I believe you agreed to before in trying to limit the noise for the neighborhood. So we would appreciate that, an ongoing effort. Thank you.
Any other trustees like to address this topic? Okay, may I have a motion to approve considerations 6A?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Grasso.
Yes?
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy. Yes. 5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. Under resolutions, consideration of adoption of resolution of the Village of Burr Ridge, DuPage and Cook Counties, Illinois, in opposition of the expansion of UPS facilities. Steve?
Yes, UPS is planning to expand their already enormous operation in Hotchkins to include a large parcel along Willow Springs Road directly across the street from the Edgewood Valley Country Club west and the single-family homes from the city of Countryside on the north. The plan calls for additional truck and employee parking. I'm sure everyone is aware of the traffic along Willow Springs Road. and the amount of truck traffic especially that you see there emanating from the UPS facility. And of course, this proposed expansion would only make it worse. And then locating trucks and all the truck parking and all the things we're concerned about with SIA, same situation. If they bring that closer to Willow Springs Road, that's what they're really proposing, is all that green space that you see on the east side of Willow Springs Road, that would all become part of the truck terminal. And that just brings it several hundred feet closer to our eastern boundary of Burr Ridge. And we talk about noise that people can hear from across the expressway. Well, you're certainly going to hear it across Willow Springs Road, and will have an impact on the village residents. The Village of Willow Springs has alerted us to this problem. We met recently with officials in Willow Springs, and they invited the city of Countryside, who have homes directly north of this proposed expansion, and requesting that we support them in opposition to this proposed project. This land currently is in Willow Springs, but it's large enough where the owners of the property can de-annex the property, request it to be de-annexed. And it appears at this time.
How many acres?
Over 50 acres. And that Hodgkins would entertain annexing it and allowing the, all the requests that UPS is asking for. So it's a concern, and therefore it's our recommendation that the resolution in opposition to the proposed expansion be adopted.
Question of the board, Trustee Francis?
Some comments. I don't know if you've ever been to the UPS facility down there. It is quite large, of course. It is quite active, quite busy 24 hours a day, but most of the facility is down in a bowl. It's below Willow Springs Road. This will bring this trucking facility, it's parking, it's trucks, it's dropping in the trailers, it's backing into the truck docks at grade with Willow Springs Road, and it'll be much more noisy for the neighbors to the north, to the country club, and certainly to us here in Burr Ridge. I live about a mile, a little bit more than a mile from this facility, and on certain nights I can hear backup signals, backup beepers from trucks backing up in this facility. It's over a mile, and I can hear it. So I sympathize with the residents across the interstate, I-55 and SIA trucking. I certainly don't have it as bad as they do, but this will certainly impact the quality of life of the neighbors surrounding this facility. Thank you.
Trustee Grosso, anything?
I'd make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes?
Trustee Francis?
Yes?
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Resolution passes 5-0 in support of our neighbors in Willow Springs. Okay, now we're on to the presentation, our considerations of the presentation of the fiscal year audit, 2014 and 2015. We have Jerry Sapp, our finance.
Jerry, why don't you come on up and introduce our auditor?
Good evening. I want to introduce John Delaney. He's a partner with BKD and previously known as Wolf & Company. This is the second year on their three-year engagement with the village. And John's going to review this year's fiscal audit that happened over the summer months and discuss the opinion of the audit.
Thank you, Jerry. As Jerry mentioned, we, Wolf & Company, had been in business in about 30 years in the Chicago area, and we were, as of November 1st of last year, we joined BKD, which is a regional firm based in Springfield, Missouri. It's actually about the 13th largest firm in the country we are right now, about 2,500 people now in 33 offices. So we're happy to be with them, a part of that, with all the resources that are available there. And in the first year working with that through the transition, we probably did put a lot more demands on the staff here, information that we were requesting that was a little different from last year, and we're like to say that the village is very diligent in working with us. A lot more forms, questionnaires. Jerry can probably grimace a little bit when he sees that, but we did get through the audit. We issued our report. It is, if you've had a chance to read it, it is an unmodified opinion. It's a clean opinion that the financial statements are fairly presented. One little modification to it is the emphasis of the matter on the, there's two things there. The first one is the implementation of a new GASB standard. GASB 67, you've probably heard about the pension disclosure information. This is the first step of two steps. GASB 68 is the one that gets a little more attention. That will be implemented next year, and that's where your unfunded pension liabilities will go onto the village's balance sheet. That has never been the case in the past, but GASB 68 will make that change next year. For GASB 67, that's mostly an informational and disclosure. If you had a chance to look at the pension disclosures in Note 9, you saw some new information in there on the funded status, and then there's some historical information on your pension contributions over the past 10 years and so forth. So those are the two things there. And then the other item that we had was a restatement. As we were going through some audit processes, we were looking at the OPUS deposit that had been sitting on the books and went through some of the prior documentation with that. Decided that there was no longer a true liability on the books for that, so we recommended and management accepted making a restatement to the prior year's financial statement to take that from a liability into the fund equity in the general fund. So those were the, there was also, I believe, ordinance 1071 it was referred to in the capital improvements fund, similar situation that it was determined those deposits were no longer a true liability, but really are instead a assigned part of your fund balance. So those were the two emphasis of matters that we mentioned in our statement. Otherwise, the rest of the financial statements are pretty much the same as you've seen last year. I think it was all in all a pretty positive year for the village. The general fund was running a surplus, had some surplus money at the end of the year that was transferred out to the capital projects funds for some future projects there. So it's always nice to be able to set aside some of that information. After that, basically the general fund ended up about where it was a year ago. So say the rest of the statements are pretty much the same as you've seen in the past years. Nothing really jumped out as far as changes. So the other document we issued was it's really a combination of what had been in the past two letters. There's a required communication to the board on the performance of the audit. This was the letter that just came out. I'm sorry, and I'll apologize for missing the deadline to get it to the village on Friday, but as part of going through the new firm is the requirements to get through something through our quality control takes a little bit longer. So we hope we're through that pass right now. But this letter was basically states that there were no real difficulties in performing the audit. Everything went very well. There were no disagreements, no difficulties. It also has the what you normally see as the management letter. That's part of this document this year. We were required to present the restatement of the beginning balances as a weakness, and that's explained in here a little bit more. And then there were a couple comments from prior years. Those were more the internal control by having another management approval of the journal entries and the bank recs. That's been implemented on both of those counts. And then we're still recommending, and I understand that management is working on an updating of the investment policy of the village. So those are both, that process is in, or that recommendation is in process. So that's what I have. If there's any questions, I welcome. Or
Correct spelling of your name, please. Or name?
I'm sorry, John DeLand. That's D-E-L-A-N-D.
John DeLand. Okay. Trustees, any questions of the auditor? Trustee Francis?
None, thank you.
Murphy and Schiappa. I have a question. Why are you smiling so much? You know, I never met a finance guy who smiled as much as you, and an auditor to boot. That must,
It's not always that way, but
well, thank you for your presentation. I mean, I have a motion to receive and file the presentation of the fiscal year audit for 2014 and 2015.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
5-0.
Thanks, John.
okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Next, under considerations, we have a consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to approve variation to permit the replacement of a patio seat walls, fire pit, and outdoor kitchen located in the front and side yard rather than the rear yard. I believe because of their unusual configuration of the property. It's located, it's V-02 2015. The address is 39 Fawn Court, last name is Beck. We have our esteemed Director of Community Development, Doug Pollack, making this presentation.
Thank you. The Zoning Board of Appeals, the Plan Commission, is forwarding its recommendation to approve a request for variations from the zoning ordinance. The property owner seeks to replace a patio and patio seat walls that are located in a front and in a side yard. Patios and patio seat walls are restricted to the rear yard and side yard of a property. The petitioner is also seeking a variation to add a built-in fireplace and outdoor kitchen or built-in grill, what the ordinance refers to as an outdoor kitchen, located in the same front and side yard as part of the reconstruction of the patio. The zoning board determined that the property is unique because it has a lower level with patio doors that exit directly into the front and side yard, and there is an existing patio in this location. To require the removal of that would not be practical to the extent that the lower level and the patio doors are an integral part of the house. Thus, the zoning board did unanimously agree to recommend approval of that variation. However, in regards to the addition of the built-in fireplace and built-in grill, the Zoning Board of Appeals did not agree on that one. They did recommend approval of the entire request by a 4-2 vote, but two of the members indicated that while they supported the variation for the reconstruction of the patio and seat walls, they could not support the addition of the fireplace and outdoor grill. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Commissioner Broline is here as the official representative of the Plan Commission tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And is it also, does the village have a position on it? I know it obviously comes from the Plan Commission, but did you have any opinion of it, or?
I would concur with the Plan Commission, Zoning Board.
Okay. Okay, first, Trustee Francis.
No questions, thank you.
Trustee Grasso.
The question and the hesitation, I guess, of the two commissioners on the Plan Commission was fear of precedent setting, right, to allow them to put a fireplace and a built-in grill. So is that what their concern was, that it would set a precedent?
Well, that's one of the...
I'm sorry.
You'll need to introduce yourself and then answer with the...
Jim Broline, I'm alternate Plan Commissioner, and I reside in Burr Ridge. Need my address? 8473 Carlisle Court.
That's quite right.
The reason, well, first of all, this property is kind of unique in that it has literally two front-type streets, Fawn and Deer Path Trail meet, and the actual front of the property is on Fawn, but if you look at the plat of view drawing, it's kind of difficult to. Okay, right here. This is the entrance to the house, right here, and this is Fawn, and this is Deer Path Trail. So you literally have the entire front of the house are two streets on two sides, and that's why the petitioner, Mr. Beck, wanted to be able to replace what he had built before. He built this house for that unique property, and it fits this way. And the access to the house from the patio is as he designed it. The problem with putting in a fireplace, and actually he used a word that drew a little attention. He used the word kitchen, and that would not have been an appropriate statement to make. He didn't put in a kitchen. He wanted to put in a fireplace. And one of the concerns was that it could set a precedent, but I don't think that was the overwhelming concern of the two that voted against it. The overwhelming concern was that it was too much of variation from the way the village has allowed fireplaces in the front of the house before.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else? Trustee Grasso?
No, thank you.
Trustee Beveza, any questions for him?
No. It's, well, real quick, I noticed that they talked to the neighbor, and the neighbor didn't have any concern about this fireplace that they're putting in.
Mr. Beck said that he talked to the neighbor, and we asked if he was present at the meeting. He was not there, and we didn't have a written comment from him. I believe Mr. Beck, but we didn't have the neighbor's presence there. But the neighbor, he said the neighbor did look at what he was doing on a design drawing and thought it was great, liked it.
He wasn't there to object.
He wasn't there to object or to confirm.
But your summary, I believe, says the staff received an email from the immediate neighbor indicating they do not object to the location. Correct? Yeah.
I don't think that email was presented. I didn't see that email.
Maybe it was afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Trustee Murphy, any questions?
You don't happen to have a photo of the house or what they want to do or anything like that, do you? Curious how it would look. It looks like there's a lot of trees and bushes and stuff that would kind of cover it.
There's an architectural drawing.
Yes, sir, if you would like to come to the microphone.
My name is Richard Beck. I live at 39 Fawn Court. And I had these drawings done up. And in here shows all the plantings that are going to be placed in there. To a point you will not even see it. Now you can, because it's just the pine trees. You can see the wood wall. But this is going to be all landscaped to a point where you won't even know it's there this time. And the neighbor did send Mr. Polak an email indicating, and it came in after the Planning Commission, after that meeting. I talked to my neighbor, and he emailed the village indicating that he had no problems with it as long as it was gas, not wood burning.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beck. Any other questions, Trustee Murphy? Okay, and Trustee Schiappa.
So this is an enclosed fireplace?
It's a gas insert.
But there's brick all around it?
Yes.
So I've seen fire pits that are
open.
It's not a pit, it's
fireplace. Okay. All right. That's it.
Any discussion? May I have a motion to approve consideration 8B, consideration of Planning Commission recommendation to approve variation to permit the replacement of a patio seat walls, fire pit, and outdoor kitchen, or can't use the word kitchen, actually replacing it, located in the front and side yard rather than the rear yard, located at 39 Fawn Court. May I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Beveza?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. Under considerations, 8C, consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to approve rezoning upon annexation from the R1 Single Family Residence District to the O2 Office and Hotel District and the B2 General Business District of the Burbridge zoning ordinance. Special use approval for a planned unit development consisting of a senior care facility with approximately 190 total units on 15.5 acres and 24,000 square feet of retail space on 3.5 acres of it, located at 15W 800 91st Street and 9101 Kingery Highway under the company name of Spectrum. Mr. Pollack?
Thank you. The Plan Commission held public hearings on August 17th and September 21st of this year to consider this request for rezoning upon annexation from the R1 district to the O2 district and the B2 district, and to consider designation of this property, 15.5 acres, as a planned unit development. The planned unit development would include development of the property with primarily as a senior care facility with 172 units located in a two-story building, 12 units located in 6 duplex cottage unit buildings. The PUD would also include retail zoning on 3.5 acres located on Kingery Highway. The Plan Commission was in unanimous agreement that the proposed development is compatible with surrounding development and zoning and is appropriate for this location, and therefore they are recommending approval of this request for rezoning upon annexation and for planned unit development. The Plan Commission noted in particular the generous open space with preservation of perimeter landscaping adjacent to the Falling Water subdivision, the developer's commitment to construct a fence adjacent to the Falling Water homes as requested by residents of Falling Water. They also noted the relatively quiet land use with low traffic and that the buildings are all 1- and 2-story buildings. There was some concern from the Plan Commission regarding traffic circulation, parking, the perimeter fencing, retaining walls, landscaping and building materials. Most of those were addressed between the two meetings and reflected in revised plans submitted for the September 21st meeting. The Commission did have continuing concerns regarding traffic circulation and recommended that staff continue to review the access to 91st Street and the left turn lane. Our traffic consultants are looking at that, and the developer has consulted and revised the plans accordingly. The plans that were submitted for the board's consideration are consistent with all of the recommendations of the Plan Commission. They have been revised accordingly. The developer is present, and I'll let them give you more details in an overview of the development of the site. I'll just summarize by stating that the Plan Commission does recommend approval of this request. The next step in this process would be the preparation of an annexation agreement and scheduling of a public hearing for the annexation agreement, which could then be done in October, if so directed by the Board of Trustees. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. First off, are there any questions of Doug before we ask them to make the presentation? Okay. Yes, I'd like to have the company make a presentation on what they have planned for this parcel of land that's currently in unincorporated DuPage County. As many of you might know, it's near the it's at the corner, the south eastern corner of Route 83 and 91st Street, directly across the street from the Speedway gas station on across 91st Street. Then of course across the highway would be catty corner would be, or I say catty corner diagonally from of course Walgreens, etc. So that's the property, and I don't know how much actually frontage there is along there, but I know it's a huge piece of property. How many acres is it, sir?
19.
19 acres. Wow.
It's 19 acres.
Okay. And your name, please?
My name is David Shaw. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Spectrum Retirement Communities, and we welcome the opportunity to make this presentation. I just want to make a few introductory comments. We will try to keep this relatively brief. As to the annexation, when we were first, pardon me, offered this property and looked at it, it became fairly obvious that a development of this magnitude was really not appropriately developed in the county. It's currently zoned R4, but we felt that...
R4, which is what?
I'm sorry?
Clarification of what R4...
I'm sorry. R4 is single family in the county. It allows for 10,000 square foot single family lots.
Okay.
we did just a sketch plan, and that would probably result in 37 to 38 smaller homes, smaller lots. But we felt that as I said, a project of this magnitude appropriately should be developed in the community on which it's having the greatest impact. And of course, that's Burr Ridge and contiguity. We also felt that Burr Ridge was certainly entitled to the economic benefits derived from the development of this type, primarily in the form of real estate taxes and hopefully down the line sales taxes. The third reason, frankly, is that we feel very comfortable with the Burr Ridge address. It is definitely an asset and will be an asset, I'm sure you realize, to this development, and that's why we opted to pursue the annexation. In terms, I want to clarify something because I'm not sure. Doug, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the 24,000 square foot aspect was, didn't we delete that and just left it to, yeah. There was some confusion about our request relative to the commercial parcel. We are not asking for approval of any plan or any minimum size. We just felt that from a planning perspective, it's quite obvious given the fact that there are the other three corners are already developed for commercial use, plus the intensity of the traffic, obviously, on a restricted access highway. We just wanted the opportunity to come back and present to the community at some point in time under a plan unit development, a commercial development, which we believe is really the only viable use for that property. In terms of the plan itself, a member of the Plan Commission pointed out, we first presented this to the village in a more formal basis when the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup. So we've been working with the village, particularly with Doug and staff and its consultants for some time. There have been several incarnations of this plan. As Doug pointed out, there have been numerous changes, additions, modifications, to the point where we received unanimous Plan Commission approval last Monday night, for which we were very grateful. And I would like to introduce at this point Mike Longfellow, who is a Senior Vice President of Spectrum. I also have Steve Cross with us tonight as our project engineer, Larry Jurgic, our project landscape designer, and Kelly Conley, who's our project traffic engineer. Mike will make a brief presentation. Steve will review the plan briefly, and if you have any questions, we're all available to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. As Dave mentioned, my name is Mike Longfellow. I'm with Spectrum Retirement Communities, and thank you for the time this evening and for your consideration. I just want to talk a little bit about Spectrum Retirement, who we are. Before we get into the specifics of the plan, I'll be brief about it, but I think it's good, always good to know. We are an owner, operator, and developer of senior living communities across the nation. I always like to point out that we are an owner-operator first and developer second, and really to drive that point home, currently we have more than 1,800 employees in our company, and there are about 20 of us in development. So we definitely, the development group exists to design and construct communities for our company to operate. And that is really who we are. I like to point that out because I think it's good for the village to know that, and certainly for our neighbors, future neighbors, to know that that our purpose is to operate these communities and be successful. So how we get, not just getting through this process, but how we get through this process is very important to us. We are headquartered in Denver, and we currently have 30 properties open and operating in 11 states. We have currently a little over 3,500 units in operation. We currently have 3 communities open and operating here in Chicago area. We have 2 more under construction, and we're looking at some more properties still in this area. So this is Chicago is a very important area for us in general, and in particular Burr Ridge is a community that we've looked at very favorably for a number of years and have looked for property here. We, in terms of what we build and operate, it's independent living, assisted living, and memory care. units. I'm certainly happy to go into any amount of detail that you would like on what those are. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody knew what any of those things were, and now that's changed to a large degree, where people at least are familiar with the term assisted living, if not what the specifics of that definition are. So again, I'm happy to answer any amount of questions you have about the operation or definition of what we are or how we operate, but in the interest of time and brevity, I'll say that I will leave it to any questions you may have. In terms of just generally speaking, what the physical building is, we design these, and by the way, I failed to say I'm also an architect, and so kind of Spectrum's main architect, and then we use third-party firms as well. But in terms of what these buildings are, they're residential in nature. In terms of their design, in terms of the forms that we use use very residential forms. That being said, over 40%, or in this case, with this building, it approaches really 45% of the building itself is dedicated to common area space, common area amenities. So main kitchen, main dining rooms, private dining rooms, bistros, et cetera. And that's something that really differentiates this product type from a lot of other buildings that you may think of in a more residential setting. But that being said, in the way that we designed this and the way we looked at it, and Steve Cross will go through the site design, but in terms of how we looked at this overall, we put one-story cottages on the eastern side of the property for a very specific reason and in very specific sensitivity to the falling waters neighbors. Our main building, which is typically 3 stories, in this case is 2 stories, we did that again because we felt that that's best, what best met the context, the surrounding context of this neighborhood and of 91st Street. So with that, I will, again, I can answer any amount of questions you may have about how we operate, but right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Trustee Grasso?
Thank you. I presume the people who would be placed in the cottages at first would be independent, with an independent lifestyle.
Yes, that is
And
correct.
then if they become infirm, are they guaranteed a place in the larger facility?
Typically, what we see is when people coming into the cottages, they are all independent living residents. So there's no assisted living, no assistance with activities of daily living that are given to the cottage residents. We oftentimes see people coming into the cottages first. They're more comfortable with it. They're leaving their house for the first time. Some of them actually stay a pretty short time before wanting to come into the main building because they find themselves coming into the building more than I think they expected to take advantage of the dining and activities programs. They start to make friends, et cetera. In terms of the guarantee, I can't speak specifically, or don't want to speak specifically to that. I don't know of a single case where they've ever not been accommodated in the building. Of course, to some degree, it depends on occupancy. But I would have to believe that as units become available, they are accommodated in their cottage for a bit longer.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any medical facilities within the larger building, or don't go that far?
Within the larger building, in terms of what happens there from a medical standpoint, I just want to talk a little bit about what assisted living is and isn't, because on the independent living side, no care is provided in the form of assistance with medication reminders, dining assistance, clothing, bathing assistance, those sorts of things. On the assisted living side, we do have caregivers. We do have licensed nursing staff in the building, and we do have 24-hour oversight within that main building. But in terms of medical care, that's where from a definition standpoint, we are not skilled nursing. We don't provide any skilled nursing actually in our company. The 3 levels of care that we do provide are independent, assisted, and memory care. So memory care is really kind of a subset of assisted living, where it's assisted living with a focus on with memory care, Alzheimer's, and other forms of dementia in terms of the activities, dining, etc.
And just one more short question. Where are your other properties in Chicago?
The ones that we have open currently, we have one in Cary, we have one in Lake Zurich, and then we have one that just opened in Lombard. And then we have one under construction in the Streamwood area on Schaumburg Road, and one that went under construction about a month ago in Libertyville.
Thank you.
With the aging population, I imagine you're growing at a pretty quick pace?
We are, yeah. In fact, we have a lot of people who suggest that we should grow faster than we are. But the demographics are quite stunning in terms of the future of this area.
I know we baby boomers are turning 65 at the rate of 10,000 a day. I once heard that the fastest growing age group by percentage of growth is actually 85 and above. Is that true still?
Is what age, I'm sorry?
85 and above is the fastest growing age group.
That is correct. I think as a percentage of the total population, that is correct. And an interesting thing that people think, generally speaking, in terms of senior living, is that somehow we're at the peak, or we're kind of at the front end of the peak of senior living occupancy. In fact, we're still a bit off of that, depending on which industry expert you believe. People talk about boomers retiring, and actually that still puts them quite a ways off from being the average age resident in our communities, because our average age typically tends to be about 82 or 83 years old. So that boomer boom for us is still a bit off, a ways off, and taken as a whole, there's a lot more of development of this product type nationally that could happen than actually is happening. So it is quite remarkable when you get to demographics, and I'm nothing in the neighborhood of a demographer, but it's interesting.
Great. Well, thank you, Mike. And we have Steve next, is it?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Steve Cross with Cross Engineering and Associates at 1955 Raymond Drive in Northbrook. I'm the civil engineer. So I'm just going to go through the site plan. I've got a whole bunch of slides that I'll jump through relatively quickly. So if you need to jump back, ask questions, we've got plenty of slides there to kind of help answer those questions. So as we mentioned, it's 19 acres in size. We have about an acre that's going to be dedicated to the village for the right-of-way purposes, because our property line does go to the center line of 91st Street. So there'll be about an acre that will be conveyed to the village for dedication. This plan just kind of shows, as David mentioned, we've got the commercial at the corner here of 83, which is running up the west side of the site, and 91st Street that runs along the north end of the site. So we've got the Walgreens, the little strip center over here, the gas station. So that's why it sort of makes a lot of sense to bring some commercial on the opposite corner there. Around the east and south sides, we've got the Falling Water subdivision. And then there's also this 200-foot wide strip of land here that is the first edition subdivision. That's one that was kind of planned and approved, and it's sort of in limbo right now. But that does separate our south property line with the existing Falling Water subdivision by a couple of hundred feet.
Oh, so that does not include your property?
That's correct, yeah, that does not include it. And I do actually have that superimposed on one of my site plans, so you can see how it all blends in there. In the center of the site, you can see there's the existing stables area and the paddocks, and this whole sort of central area is what's been currently developed. Just real quick, challenging site. If you haven't been on the property, there is actually quite a lot of fall from the center of the property here. This is the high point of the property. All the way down to this far southeast corner, we've got about 49 feet of fall. So there's a significant grade drop for an 18-acre site. That's quite a bit. In addition to that, along 91st Street, there's about 28 feet of fall from an elevation here of 27 down to an elevation of 699. So that also created some challenges on how we would lay out the site and how we would access it from 91st Street. Generally, there's some area, the third of the property drains through a channel down to this point here into the Falling Water subdivision. And in meeting with the association there, we understand there are some drainage issues down there. The kind of 2/3 of the site and the stable area all drains down to this southeast corner. And again, it drains off to the Falling Water, and there's some drainage issues there. So what our plan does, and we've met with the Homeowners Association president and past president, we presented our plan, talked about the drainage, and made sure we incorporate features as part of our stormwater management plan that will certainly enhance and improve their issues that they have there. This is just a quick photo here. There's 91st Street on the left side, so north is facing left. What's important here, just as you go through the plan, is this big strip of vegetation here is essentially this whole area here. This is a panoramic shot taken from the east side of the stable building, looking straight out across to the east. As I said, there's that big drop as you go to the east there. So all of this vegetation here is actually going to be saved as part of our plan, the way we have designed it. So on the west side of the property, we've got the 3.5 acre site that we've actually removed the original site plan because, again, we're not looking for any kind of site plan approval for that. It's just the zoning for the commercial 3.5 acres there. And in the center of the site, we've got the main building. It's got the three components, as Mike mentioned. We've got the memory care, the assisted living, and the independent living. We have the west wing is the assisted living and the memory care. The center core is where Mike alluded to a lot of the common areas that are inside the building there, the bistro, theater, library, etc. And then this kind of donut area that we're calling on the east side, that's the independent living side. And then on the east side of the property, we have these 6 cottages lined up on either side. There's 3 on either side of this roadway. That gives us the additional 12 units. And in the main building, we've got 178 units planned, and then the additional 12 units over here, which gives us a total of 190. Now you can see, and I'll go to the next plan, which is in color, so it kind of jumps out to you a little bit better. We have our major stormwater management features along the south property line and the southeast corner of the property line. One of the things, as I mentioned, with the grading challenges, if you look in the Planning Commission notes and in our packet, we talk about retaining walls. And I mentioned the 49-foot of fall. It's very important that we look into the retaining wall because what we wanted to do was maintain this big buffer along this east property line to respect the existing homeowners in the Falling Water subdivision here and try to maintain as much of that open space as possible. When you look at this plan, all this green area here totals up to about, including the detention ponds, totals up to about almost 60% of that property is going to be open space. So it's going to be green, or it's going to have some kind of wetland pond and open water that we've got planned in here. A couple of other things to note, as Doug had alluded to, this is the entrance that's kind of in question. It's been here, it's been moved over, and it's been moved back. So it's kind of gone back and forth between what's ideal given the traffic coming to this left turn lane here, making a turn to go left southbound on 83. So we're comfortable with it either being opposite O'Neill or coming straighter here to try to move the access further east and hopefully give a longer distance for people to make a decision to make a right turn into the site. So as you can see, we've got a significant green space in here, which provides a lot of room to do some other things if need be. The other question was about this access. We've had this access kind of in, and then it's been out, and now it's back in again. So the question is whether we really want to link these two driveways together or take this out and not allow the commercial traffic to kind of travel down to this other entrance over here. And again, we're showing it back in. There's positives and negatives either way, so we're comfortable with either direction. The general layout of the site is we've got parking in the center area here, so within the courtyard, just behind the kind of the front facade of the building. This is really our visitor and guest parking. And then at the back here, we have the resident and employee parking with a freestanding garage over here, which is a facility that could be rented by any of the residents. Typically, your assisted living, your memory care residents will not have cars. Your assisted living residents will have a small percentage, maybe 5-7% might have a car, but probably not use it very much. And then your independent living will have, a larger percentage, maybe 10-15% might have a car in there. So we feel with a 0.8 ratio of this area here, that is more than adequate for the parking needs for the development. In addition to cottages, each of those have 2-car garages and spots for 2 cars on each of the driveways, as well as we actually widened the street as part of the review with staff. They recommended we widen this to 27 feet back to back so we can have on-street parking. So as far as parking on the site, we're very comfortable with that. The other thing that we're going to be doing as part of the improvements is widening a little bit of 91st Street here and improving the south half of the road. So we'll be adding curb and gutter, street lights, drainage, and as you can see, a sidewalk along the south side of the road here. As part of the requirements is to either add a sidewalk along 83rd Street, along 83, or provide funds to the Pathway Commission. And our choice right now is we recommend we would provide the funds, but we'll be open to whatever. Because It's a little bit more challenging getting a sidewalk along here because there is a fairly steep drop down there, and it's very low compared to the roadway. So that's just something that we're open to either way. It would be a challenge to design it in, but we can go either way.
Excuse me, would that sidewalk link to any other sidewalks, or is it?
Doesn't really link to
its own
anything
little
right
island?
now, so,
Okay.
yeah. So if we bring, there's an existing crosswalk and a concrete pad right here, so we would bring our sidewalk and connect it down to the end of the sidewalk that is currently here. So we would provide a route for kids or whoever walking down here to get to the school further down 91st Street there. This is just the site plan superimposed on the aerial, and then right here you can see that's the Falling Water subdivision first edition there. There's 5 lots in there with a stormwater management facility in the far eastern corner. So we've looked at this and made sure that as far as what goes in there, when it goes in, it will blend with our development, so it's not going to be a conflict or anything with our development. That's just an engineering plan. And this is kind of an important detail. It shows there's 4 sections there. The first section at the top is a section through this part of the site. The second one is through this home here. The third one through here, and then the last one kind of comes out at an angle here. And this really tells the story of why we're looking for these retaining walls. So at the very northern end, we have a main building up at the top. It drops down to a level where the cottages are at, and then there's a gentle slope down to the existing home there. These are all the existing trees that we're talking about saving. So these large trees that you see along that property line is this really beautiful buffer that's going to remain. You get a little further down, and that corner, as I mentioned, this is the lowest corner, so the ground is dropping. But our cottages are pretty much at the same elevation. So what we've done is introduced a couple of retaining walls here. Again, this is all natural native planting and trees in here. We get to the third one, and we get to the detention pond, and then the last one is right through the detention pond, and you can see the 3-wall. So this whole area is all being saved, and that's really the result of the walls. Otherwise, we could eliminate the walls and just have a constant slope all the way down to that property, which we don't think is going to really benefit anybody. These are just some blow-ups of the pond areas. And again, this is the Falling Water First Edition, and how everything sort of blends together there. And then go into the architecture. I don't know, Mike, if you wanted to talk a little bit more. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I studied this site, have all the details about it. So
One last question. I'm sure we have more questions coming up, but one, I know you're retaining some vegetation, but is there any plans for also a security fence of any kind?
yeah, that was good. I'm glad you mentioned that. That was one of the things that we talked about at Planning Commission meeting, and this was added to the plan on the last submittal. The existing fence actually ends it's about 30 to 40 feet short of the property line. So there's concerns about security to the Falling Water subdivision.
Right.
So what we've done is we've shown this to be extended, and they have actually brick pillars with a wrought iron fence. So we're looking to mimic that with the brick pillars and perhaps an aluminum fence, bring it to the corner and turn the corner. This is, as I said, this is a very heavy vegetation. You can't even walk through there. But their concern was the security and safety there, so what we thought was we would bring this down about 30 to 40 feet into the vegetation with the decorative fence, and once it kind of disappears in the vegetation, we would change to some stockade-type wooden fence, similar to what is down along the First Edition property line over there. There's another wooden fence down there, so we would continue the wooden fence all the way down to this corner, which would provide them the security and safety that they were concerned about.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, thank you, Steve. I'll be brief about this. In how we have designed this building, certainly what we've done is take a tour of Burr Ridge, as we always do when we're going into new communities, and looked at the architectural styles. But one of the things that we did right off the bat, as I mentioned before, was that we decided to make this a 2-story building, which is not typically the case for us, certainly on properties of this type. But what we do in terms of the design with roof slopes, gable ends, porches, et cetera, is to really break up the facade and break up the scale. Of course, looking at an elevation like this, we can shade and shadow it and put trees all we want. It still looks rather large in elevation. But just to talk about the materials, we have everything as far as the facades, the walls is all masonry of some sort. So it's predominantly brick. This is our main entry with our porte cochere for the vehicular entry, vehicular drop-off. So basically everywhere you see that's reddish brown here is brick. And then we have two different colors of stone that we're showing, a darker stone in some places and then a lighter stone in others. At an earlier point, we had suggested some sort of stucco material. And the Planning Commission talked about that becoming stone, which we agreed with. And certainly it's going to be a nice product, a nice final product, and a beautiful look. In terms of looking at it a little bit less two-dimensionally, this is a 3D rendering of that main entry area. So once again, this is our porte cochere where the cars will come in and drop off our residence. And then you can see some of the bump outs, porches with the gable roof lines that help to break that up and provide some visual interest. Once again, I will leave it at that and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Francis?
I'm going to wait for the presentation to be concluded, then I'll ask my questions and comments.
Is the presentation concluded?
Yeah, with that, I think unless you have anything else, that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Trustee Francis?
Thank you. I wasn't sure where you're from. Thank you. First and foremost, I appreciate you wanting to become a part of the Village of Burr Ridge and contribute to its special nature and its success. Also, I can tell from the site plan that you spent a lot of time on it. A lot of thought went into the site plan. Specifically, I appreciate the cottages buffering between the residents of Falling Waters and the main buildings, the detention ponds buffering to the south and southeast as well. I've seen that you listened to staff's recommendations and comments, and also the comments from the residents as well. Many of them spoke and had many things to say about this plan and many concerns, and I believe you addressed most of them, if not all of them. Certainly adding fencing on the east side of the property to preserve the sense of security and the gated community was a big plus in my book. Questions? If this were to be approved tonight, what would the timing be? When would you break ground on the main facility?
The timing in general, as with everything we do, is as soon as possible. At this point, really to get into construction documents and get those approved and get building permits, we would be looking to start construction as early in spring as we possibly could.
Okay, that makes sense. And what are your plans down the road for the retail development? Do you plan to develop that, or do you plan to sell that off?
That we really on the commercial piece that could go either way. We've done that before. Our business is senior living development.
Understood. That's why I asked the question.
That's our focus. That being said, we've had these situations a few times before where we've purchased more ground than we need, or in this case, where the plan really fit to have commercial portions such as this. We are capable of developing it ourselves. But that being said, we actually haven't spoken to a tenant, prospective tenant, or purchaser or developer of commercial about this ground yet. Our focus has been the senior living portion. So I would say we're not sure.
Okay.
We're open to not really either method.
Okay. And whenever I see ponds on a drawing, I have to ask the question: are they dry detention ponds, or are they wet retention ponds?
I'll let Steve answer that, because there is a little bit of a wet area, and then there's some wetland plantings associated with that as well.
What we've done is we've designed kind of a best management practice to try to help filter out the water. So this blue area here, you see kind of meandering stream in the middle here, is going to be the open water. It's going to be about 3 to 4 feet deep. And then we'll have wetland plantings all along this sort of flat edge before it actually goes up to the side slopes. And the same thing down at the big pond at the bottom here. you'll see that there's a blue area in the middle, and then all this little kind of hatch dotted area around it, that's all going to be sort of wetland planting. So we're trying to make something that's just not man-made pond with the side slopes going down and just very kind of boring. It's going to be a lot more interesting based on that. Plus, it's going to meet all the code requirements for the county as well.
So this becomes tricky. How do you design this? How do you size the ponds and all the appurtenances with it if you don't know the footprints of the buildings and the parking and so forth in the commercial area?
That's pretty easy. We can make assumptions, and we've got the site plan that we have done. We would be more conservative. We'd estimate more impervious area than less. That way, no matter what we do, we think we're covered.
So you assume worst case then?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fairly typical when you don't know what's going to go in.
Okay. And just a comment or two for the residents that spoke out at the Plan Commission meetings and such. If this parcel were not to come into the village, if it was to remain in the county, then they could put in the 10,000 square foot lots, which would render housing that is incongruous with what we have here in Burr Ridge. And also, there would be no control over, we would have no control over what would be developed in the commercial area. There could be another 24 hours a day gas station, another speedway, drive-throughs, et cetera. With this parcel coming into the village, we now have control over that retail development, and we can make sure that it serves the needs of the residents and also is not intrusive to the residents that live in the senior housing and live in Falling Waters and adjacent properties. So I think it's a win-win for the village here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Grasso.
I agree with Trustee Francis that this is, I think it looks lovely. I love everything from the landscaping to the design and the freedom it gives so many people to stay in Burr Ridge or have their parents be close to them and have them in a lovely place like this that they'd be proud to call home. Just curiosity, how many staff members will you have during the day at the high level, and at the night maybe you have fewer? Because I'm also concerned about where they're parking.
Yes, thank you. Excellent question. I'll start out with the number of jobs that we're looking at creating with this. And I'm talking obviously just about the senior living, not knowing the specifics of the commercial. But on the senior living side, we would be creating approximately 75 jobs. Now, in terms of the employees on site at a given time, the maximum would be in the 25 to 30 range. And that would be at a shift changeover. That really maxes out from the noon to 2 p.m. period. And then on the overnight, it's more in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 in the entire building. One thing that's I think notable about that compared to other types, including a healthcare environment, is that we don't just have 3 8-hour shifts. We actually have different types of employees. We have certainly caregiving staff, but we also have housekeeping, food service staff. We have administrative office staff, and so those shifts do really tend to kind of sprinkle out throughout the day, which is helpful from a traffic standpoint. In terms of the employee parking itself, that's really going to be all concentrated back here on the south side of the property between the building and this detention area here. This area here will really be reserved for visitors and some residents. And then all of this back here, as Steve said, I think would be either residents and then employees. We would focus over here. And just this one area over here actually is ample for all the employees we would have at a maximum shift change. And then we also have this one freestanding garage, which is really an amenity for some independent living residents. The cottages all have their own garages in there.
And do you happen to know how the pricing of your facility compares to, let's say, King Boulevard and Hinsdale?
I don't know specifically for two reasons. I don't know what their pricing is exactly, and in terms of ours, really being a couple years out from being construction being complete and being open, I'm not sure how that would compare, but generally speaking, and I'm taking kind of a regional approach to pricing here, it's for our smallest unit on the independent living side, we would probably be in the $2,000 to $2,500 a month range, and then the largest or most expensive unit with memory care on top of it, et cetera, would probably be between $5,000 and $6,000. So I'm not sure how that compares to that specific competitor, but that's about what we are.
Trustee Francie brought up a point that is very important. I was going to bring up, beat me to it, is the fact that annexation into the village gives us a certain amount of control over the property. Over the years, we've had problems in the past where people objected to certain items and they didn't come into the village at a beneficial time, and both Cook and DuPage County has a lot less stringent requirements than we do. And I think it's, in looking at the plans and what the Plan Commission has recommended, I agree with it. Any comments?
I would agree with you. I think it looks beautiful, and I'm thrilled to have something like this going in there as opposed to some kind of commercial building or something else like that that would be controlled by the county. I'm thrilled that you're putting in the sidewalks. It looks gorgeous with all the trees and the retaining ponds and things like that, so I would support it.
Oh, Bob, I want to say thank you for considering Burr Ridge for your project. I think it contributes to being a very special place what Burr Ridge is, and I think this would be a very special place. I think that there was a lot of work that you guys had put in to get to where we're at now, and it's a beautiful building, and look forward to having you in the village.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Are there any residents that wish to comment? Yes.
It's a very involved project with a lot of moving parts. But the one thing I wanted to express to the board is that the Spectrum team we've been delighted at how flexible they've been, how they've responded so quickly to our suggestions. In fact, maybe responded too quickly on occasions. So, we've reversed ourselves in some of our conversations, but they're just wonderful to work with, and I know they'll work with the village very closely, as well as Falling Water.
I had one more question.
Schiappa?
Is there going to be security in the facility?
The security that we have in the facility really exists at two levels. At one very general level, we do have 24-hour oversight in the community. We have staff there. We have a front desk really past which all visitors come and go. The independent living and the assisted living portions of the building are not secure facilities, so residents can certainly come and go as they wish. That being said, there is that level of monitoring of the comings and goings that is present 24 hours. The memory care portion of the facility itself, which is this kind of T-shaped portion right here, that is actually a secure unit. So in that particular case, residents can only come and go either with a caregiver or with family members, and so that there is a much higher level of security there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? May I have a motion to accept and concur with the Plan Commission and direct staff to prepare an annexation agreement and the ordinances around this development?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Al just did.
I'm sorry? Yes, no, yes, I know.
Okay.
Yes, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes?
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. Almost welcome to the village. Thank you very much. Okay, we have, next item is 8E. I was removed from the consent agenda. Approval of request from Carriageway Club for subdivision fence. Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. I support this 100%. The reason I had it removed is I have walked this fence line down. I've walked the fence line down behind the Carriageway condos, and limiting our fence restrictions and ordinances to 50% or greater open fence and 6 foot in height, I think does residents like this that back up on commercial properties, on GI, on B2, B1, O office properties, et cetera, does them a disservice. They lose their privacy. So I would ask that the Plan Commission review the fence ordinance and consider amending it to allow solid 100% solid fences up to 8 feet high on residential properties that abut commercial and business and GI properties.
Okay.
And there's several in the village, and it was pointed out at the Plan Commission meeting which ones those are.
I think it's a good idea.
And
I agree.
we ran across the same thing with my property.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Absolutely.
So I make the motion to approve the Plan Commission recommendation to allow for the request of the Carriageway Club for the subdivision fence.
Second.
And do you want to see what's proper with the
Just
bringing
to-
it back in consideration to
That's a separate issue.
Separate issue.
We can't be attached to this, okay? Roll call, please.
Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion, no official action will be taken. Is there anything else?
Well, we just heard that. I mean, you want to memorialize that in terms of a motion to direct the staff to discuss this with the Plan Commission, or otherwise we would do it anyway, but.
So moved, as you stated.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Second.
Just a roll call. I mean, it's all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
So now it's memorialized in the minutes, and so we know what we have to do.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any additional resident comments? Mr. Beck?
Richard Beck, 39 Fawn Court. I've lived in the village since 1987, and I have to say that the village office staff are fantastic professional people that I've worked with. They're really good. And also, I'd like to thank Doug Polak for assisting me in putting back the package together for the variance. He's very professional, and he went out of his way to come over to my house to see how unique it is. And so I just want to thank Mr. Polak also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
Any other residents who would like to address the board? Okay, number 10, reports and communications from village officials.
You can. I just don't want to forget about Saturday.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to forget that one.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'd like to remind everyone in the village that we have a bridge dedication or rededication ceremony scheduled for Saturday. This is a big celebration in the village. It'll be 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. The location for it, they didn't want to close down the highway or the clover leaves for some reason. But so we had to make it off the bridge, but it will be in eye shot or clear view of the bridge from the Loyola parking lot. There'll be a tent there, Gower Band, looking to have an invocation as well as speakers. We're also going to have the resolutions that we just had tonight, all the people that had a major impact on making that dream come a reality, including Senator Christine Rodonio, and Representatives Jim Durkin, Patty Belloc, and our former mayor Gary Grasso. They will all be there. It will be at 10 o'clock, and they'll be followed by some refreshments afterwards. So probably shouldn't last longer than an hour, but it is Saturday, and all residents are welcome.
And the Gower Band will be there too.
And the Gower Band will be there, absolutely. And also somebody from IDOT too. We've got somebody from IDOT coming. And maybe even...
And Lieutenant Governor, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. How can I forget? Our Lieutenant Governor will also be here, Evelyn Sanguinetti. She's actually a DuPage County resident herself, and a friend of many people in the village. So she will also be there to celebrate with us, and there'll be a little plaque and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of neat. Is there anything else? Any other village reports? Village officials? Hearing none, we have the non-resident comment section.
Good evening. My name is Dolores Caesar. I'm a former trustee and a former resident. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Bittner for yielding whatever time remains for his 5 minutes. And I also like to thank the other couple here this evening in support. First, I wish to make it crystal clear that my comments tonight are directed to the 4 trustees who are trying extra hard to put me in the back of the bus by approving an ordinance at the September 14th board meeting that limits free speech of non-residents to the tail end of a board meeting. It is obvious that I was a target of that ordinance. For over 7 years in the 70s, I wrote an op-ed column for Hinsdale Doings, Downers Grove Reporter, and their satellites papers. I called one of the columns, Let the Sunshine In, which I will give to the board after the meeting along with some other material. 2 of the issues it addressed were 1, double dipping, which would prohibit holding more than one public office at the same time, which Mr. Grasso wanted to do, and 2, prohibit state legislators from being paid their entire annual salary on the first day the General Assembly convened, whether they died, whether they were convicted, whether they were in prison, whatever. They were paid the entire year's salary. This was a petition drive to get these reform measures on the ballot, promoted by Common Cause, and I worked with Pat Quinn, Coalition for Political Honesty. This petition effort produced over 635,000 signatures. I give you this background because for many years I have been trying to let the sunshine in Burr Ridge. One of the reasons given by Village Council Scott Euler for adopting this amendment, Rule 16, to the Burr Ridge Municipal Code was that it would improve the efficiency of a board meeting. As Trustee Bolos pointed out at the last board meeting, it ran 1 hour, 10 minutes. I ran across the minutes of October 11th, 2011 board meeting that ran 13 minutes. What's to improve? 4, at the last board meeting of September 14th, when recounting what took place following the board member of August 24th, when Janet Grasso and I had an argument in the foyer of the Village Hall about whether she should have voted on two issues that had come before the board since she was elected 2 years ago. One of them was at that board meeting that night, Global Imports. There was a witness to this argument, despite the fact that when I recounted this incident at the last board meeting, Grasso kept shaking her head no, as though this argument had never happened. The witness came out of the boardroom while Grasso was waving her arms around, saying she was going to look into ways to shut me down since I was no longer a village resident. The witness saw what was going on between Grasso and me, paused for a few moments, and then walked away.
Excuse me, Dolores. Dolores, you have, just want to give you 1 minute warning.
Whatever remains from Mr.
No, Dolores, that time is not added.
I haven't even gotten to the heart of this, and I waited until the entire end of this meeting. I think I deserve some courtesy.
We have 1
But
minute.
at the September 14th board meeting, he didn't even man up to say that he had witnessed this incident. I call that wimpy. The witness was Mr. Straub. Reviewing the facts will clearly show that Straub's predecessor, Gary Grasso, overstepped his authority to limit my free speech and make me wait until the second audience portion of a board meeting to address the board because I am a non-resident. The first time this happened was the board meeting of May 9th, 2011. When
Dolores, your time is up, but you can have 1 more minute.
When, perhaps, would you like to yield your 5 minutes?
It doesn't work that way, Dolores.
This is done in Congress all the time.
But he's the chairman of this body. He makes the decisions. He
It's
makes
not
the
in the
decision.
rules of order.
It doesn't make any difference. He makes the decision. He's given you 1 additional minute, Dolores, to finish.
Just a minute. Grasso announced that in order to speak at the first audience portion, one of 3 requirements must be met. Number 1, either be a village resident, 2, be a village property owner, or 3, own a business in Burr Ridge. If you could not meet any one of these restrictions, you had to wait for the second audience portion that was just before adjournment. Where was the authority for him to make these restrictions? I believe there was none. At the May 23, 2011 board meeting, I again raised my hand to speak in the first audience portion of the meeting, and Grasso refused to recognize me. At this time, it might be helpful to review the timeline of the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act was amended by changing Section 2.06 as follows.
Dolores.
I will provide the trustees with this information, and I hope that the press understands that I have been cut off in making a defense of what you people did to me at the last board meeting. As Yogi Berra, who recently died, said, it ain't over till it's over.
Thank you, Dolores.
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee DeBeja?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
We thank you all for joining us tonight, and look forward to next week, or 2 weeks. Thank you very much, and remember the bridge dedication, Saturday, 10 a.m.